Everybody's there. I can't tell. I appreciate you taking time to spend with me today or this evening to answer some questions that you have that we've picked off of Facebook. And if you have any more questions, keep them coming. I want to talk about whatever you want to talk about. I first want to reintroduce myself. We are getting really, really close to the primary, and I want everybody to know I am not on your primary ballot because I don't have a primary contender. There are three Republicans on the Republican side who are running, and I will face the winner of their race. So, again, my name is Gay Valimont, and I am running for Congress because I am a widow, a mother, a daughter of a child of an 81-year-old who I take care of, and I'm also I work in sports medicine. I am an athletic trainer. I have navigated healthcare from every angle, and I know that we need reform right now. So today we've had a pretty good day. We had a lot going on. This morning we had breakfast with Angie Nixon, who is running for United States Senate here in Florida. She is running against Alexander Vindman for the Democratic nomination. It's going to be a battle. They're both very qualified candidates, and Angie just has that oomph and that gravitational pull. The thing that inspires me most about her is that she is just like us. She's a normal kind of person that understands what our needs are, that is willing to go to the mat for us. You can see that in getting arrested in Tallahassee because Ron DeSantis wouldn't talk to her. Getting She has moved mountains in the Florida legislature, and she's a great person to check out. So check out her and Alexander Vindman so that you can make an educated decision on who you're going to vote for. So the next thing I did today which was a little difficult, I went and met with a family where the father has ALS, which is what my husband died of. It is a disease that traps you in your body. Your body starts to give up, but your mind is completely normal. I always called it a rich man's disease because you need so many things to prolong life. And he is a veteran. So we sat and talked for a really long time about how we can get ALS care in the VA clinic that I'm going to build here, that I need about $1 billion for, that I am going to get. I believe somebody asked a question about how I'm going to do that, so I'm going to answer that really soon. So let's get started, y'all. Let's get started with your questions. Let me get to the right page so I can read your questions. All right, this is from Eli from Conservative Circle, and he wants to know, I want to ask your opinion on democratic socialism. I think democratic socialism is fine. It is an ideology, not a party, but an ideology. And the difference between Democrats and democratic socialism is that Democrats believe in a capitalistic society with restrictions and regulations. And democratic socialists believe that more of our wealth should be put in the hands of the people. Now, I'm not saying I don't believe in that. What I'm saying is I'm not that optimistic, and that we share a lot of the same values. I believe in social programs. I believe in Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security. I believe those things are sustainable, and I believe that we need those programs to uplift our children. I also believe in EBT programs and SNAP benefits. Those are all programs that we need to expand. Medicaid is something we need to expand, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. Okay, do you have a resource? This is from Michelle K on TikTok. She said, "Do you have a resource where you share your plan on how you're going to build a new VA hospital?" I have not released my written plan, but I can tell you how it's going to go in a nutshell. So they just did this same thing in St. Louis, where they evaluated the need and then took it to the committees, got the money, and brought it back to build their hospital. Now, money is available. My opponent said he was going to instruct the VA to do a study here to see if we needed a VA, a new VA hospital. And let me tell you, currently we have a VA clinic at both Eglin and at NAS, which is NAS Pensacola, which is our naval base. And both clinics do a really good job, except for they don't have all the services that are necessary for our vets. So our vets are having to travel to Biloxi 2 hours, or they're having to travel to Jacksonville 4.5 or 4 hours, 4.5 hours, I believe, to get the care that they need. I don't think that's sustainable for someone that's over 70 to drive that far to get their care. I also believe that we owe our veterans a huge debt. I believe that we owe them health care for life, and we take care of our vets that went to war or have served in uniform, and when they come home, we take care of them. That is our promise. And currently, we're not doing the best job we can. I believe we can do better. I believe we can build a full service VA hospital. We have the most concentrated number of vets in the entire state, more than any other district in Florida, and second in the country. We don't need a study to tell us that we need a full service VA hospital for our 90,000 vets that live here. And I'm really interested in the ALS clinic that's going to be attached to this VA hospital. Because if you have served in uniform, you're 14 times more likely to get ALS than the average person. 14 times more likely than a civilian. And they don't know why, have no idea why. But when you have ALS, you need a multidisciplinary clinic. And a multidisciplinary clinic has all the things that you could possibly need in one spot instead of having to go to 16 different doctors and fill your time with that. That's not sustainable. So what we're going to do is we have to, by law, do the survey to make sure that we need a VA hospital. And then I'm going to take it to the committees. And I'm going to secure the funding, which is about $1 billion, to build this hospital. And that is my promise to you. Let's see. From York Powers on TikTok. Will you go after the corrupt people who have stolen tax dollars? Will you fix the Voting Rights Act? Absolutely, on voting rights. But let me tell you about corruption. So what we are seeing in Washington are our public servants getting rich. And those two things don't go together. I vow when I am sent to Washington not to stock trade. I will also vow to make sure that we pass legislation to cut down on the corruption. That means term limits. I believe we need term limits to cut down on our corruption, because if you have little time there, then you do the best you can with the time you have. People will be held accountable for how they have profited off the government, but we have to end Citizens United. Citizens United gives big corporations, rich people, the leeway to buy elections. And that's how we ended up with a millionaire president. That's how we're ending up with people in Congress who make money while they're in office. That's not right. and we have to elect good, solid, moral people that want to serve the public, not the other way around. The Voting Rights Act, absolutely. I have said it over and over again, and I mean this, and I've always said it from the beginning. I believe that our vote is our pathway to getting the things that we need. Each person, every American has the right to vote, and every American has the right for that to be an easy access to the ballot box. And that's what it should be. You know what I think? I think that there should be a national holiday. And I do not support, while we're talking about voting rights, I do not support the SAVE Act. And let me tell you why. In the Constitution, it says there will be no poll tax. You do not pay to cast your vote. And essentially, what this is, unless the government is going to make it mandatory to get your passport, unless it is 100% completely free, unless voting day is a national holiday. Those are the things that I would say, if the SAVE Act was to be passed, those are the things that would have to go along with it. But let me be very clear. We already show ID to vote in Florida. It is a driver's license. Anybody remember how hard it was to get everybody on board to get a real ID so that you could fly? That took about 10 years. Can you imagine the backlog of people that would not be able to vote, especially by November, if we pass the SAVE Act? That is the purpose for the SAVE Act, to stop people from voting. It has nothing to do with showing citizenship, but everything to do with causing an obstacle on your way to the ballot box. I do not support it, and I never will. Okay, so Nicholas from TikTok, alligator Alcatraz, question mark. Building a tent in the middle of the Everglades during hurricane season. So good news, everybody. Alligator Alcatraz is gone. Those people that were kept at Alligator Alcatraz have been moved. And that facility no longer is open, but there are plenty of other facilities across the United States who are open, including Dilley, which is in Texas, and it houses families in deplorable conditions. So we need to be vigilant, keep our eyes open, make sure that we're not supporting these corrupt internment camps that are popping up all over our nation. New questions. Let's see. Rachel Payne on Facebook. How will you protect citizens with intellectual and developmental disabilities from losing their Medicaid and HCBS services? So, just to give you a little background for people listening, so with the Medicaid restrictions that were passed in the big bill they call beautiful, they passed work requirements to be able to receive Medicaid. If you are intellectually disabled or physically disabled, those things, being able to hold a full-time job is not a reality in some cases. And so the crux of the issue has been, how do we determine who can work and who can't work? Well, that should have been thought of before the law went into effect. But what it does is butts heads with the American Disability Act. And so what lawmakers have to do is make it more clear about how those people become permanently disabled. And I say that is between them and their doctor. That is why you have health care. And so having a doctor essentially determine whether you're capable of working, whether you're eligible to work or not, is the way to go. But lawmakers have to put it in writing. Lawmakers have to make sure that our disabled Americans have the rights and the things that they need to live happy, healthy, and prosperous, just like the rest of us. And that means making sure that they have health care available to them. And I will always stand up for Americans with disabilities. I have a lot of experience with Americans with disabilities and Disabilities Act, and I will protect those people to make sure that they have health care and that they have the services coming into their homes that they need. Caregivers also, 25% of Americans are taking care of somebody else. And when you are a caregiver for somebody that is on Medicaid and you're a full-time caregiver, you also receive Medicaid. A lot of the problem is people don't know that these things are available to them. So please make sure that you check into your health care and that you help somebody with a disability if they need assistance. And of course, my office is always here. If you're having trouble, reach out. Please do. Let's see. From Ti, I guess this is Tina, in all caps. How are you going to stop the constant property tax and insurance increase? Okay, so I've been listening to Angie Nixon, and I've been listening to Alex Vindman, I've been listening to David Jolly, and we all have different plans. In Florida, the reason our insurance is so expensive is obviously because of hurricanes. It's because the insurance companies employ climate scientists that know we're going to have the big one, not if or when, it's when we have the big one. And so they know these things are going to happen. But the insurance companies have insurance, which is called reinsurance. And that tax on 25% on top of what normal insurance would cost. Now, I want to be very clear about this. When my opponent was the CFO of Florida, he took $2 million from the insurance companies and did nothing to regulate them. Typically, homeowners insurance is a state issue, but I believe that under FEMA, a FEMA that is funded, that FEMA should supply the insurance companies with the reinsurance instead of that cost coming back onto the consumer. That would cut our insurance costs down 25%. I believe the federal government should do that. David Jolly has a plan. He believes that the state government should do that, take over the 25%. Angie Nixon has a plan that develops a fund that Florida also pays for. So there are lots of ways around bringing down property insurance, and a lot of really smart people have some good ideas about how to do it. We just have to elect people that don't take money from the insurance companies and want consumers to get a break on their taxes. Okay. From Michaela on Facebook, and she says, do you think Jeffries what do you think of Jeffries becoming speaker? I like Hakeem Jeffries. I believe that he has been a good leader, but I also am open to other people becoming speaker. I don't believe that's set in stone. I believe there are a lot of people who would be good leaders for the Democratic Party. But I'm going to have to be convinced that Hakeem Jeffries should stay there and should become speaker. So we'll see. I have 98 days before I am elected to decide. Okay. This is from my buddy Michael on Facebook. Would you vote to bring back taxes on overtime and tips? No, Michael, I wouldn't. I've spent 9 years waiting tables and bartending all the way through college. I have 2 degrees and a master's, and I know what it's like to wait tables and to make that money and to get that little bit of tax break. So, no, I would not. But be very clear about what the tax on tips. It only covers up to 30 grand. And if you make more than 30 grand, which if you don't, then you're living in a box or your car, because the cost of living is outrageous. Um, you don't see a tax break after 30 grand. So that's not the end all be all. Okay, how do you feel about Medicaid expansion? I say absolutely we should expand Medicaid and take care of our people that need health care. Health care is a huge problem right now, not just for people on Medicaid or that have been kicked off of Medicaid, but for everyone. We need to expand Medicaid. And let me be very clear about this. Medicaid is health care for children and the elderly disabled, for people that need it. I think there's some confusion with people about what Medicaid does. It is health care. It is health care. And if people don't have health care, then they use our emergency rooms as a primary care. And what that does is makes it more expensive, longer wait times for us all. So, yes, we need to expand Medicaid and we need to get rid of work requirements. From Dean Bryant, what is your position on giving unconditional funds to Israel? I will state this very plainly for everybody. I will not vote in favor of giving one more dime to Israel. I believe I support Israel. I support Jewish people. I do not support Netanyahu. Netanyahu is a war criminal, and we are currently fighting in a war in Iran because he talked our president into it. Now, that's just part of the reason, but he's the only one that is benefiting from a war in the Middle East, is Netanyahu. So no, I will not vote or support any more funds going to Israel. From Betsy Adams on Facebook, what can we do in regard to the unbridled development and destruction of the Santa Rosa County wetlands, wildlife habitat, and packing in as many houses and apartment complexes as possible? Well, we have a clear cutting problem in Santa Rosa County. It does fall under a state purview to make sure that those things don't happen. But reaching out to county commissioners and city council is the way to go. There are some great organizations in the area who are working really hard to make sure that we can preserve our trees and our wildlife. Get involved with one of those groups. Save Our Sound Side is one of them. There's also one in Milton that's around the Blackwater River. These conservationists work really hard to make sure that we're not continuing to bring red clay in, put the red clay on top of sand, build structures on it, and poison the seagrass. That is how we are losing our oceans. That is how we're losing our fresh water as well. So we need to make sure that we work on those things, but it falls more under, unless those lands could be considered wildlife preservations, unless that land could be controlled under federal purview instead of state. But I believe you are talking about state lands. Okay. From Purple Deluxe, what are your plans for 98 and the bypass we have been crying for? An alternate route east and west for Fort Walton to Navarre. All right, y'all. So the biggest complaints I get from people in Okaloosa County and Navarre is the traffic on 98. It is, and if you've sat in it at 5 o'clock or at 4 o'clock on a Friday, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. The traffic coming out of Eglin is crazy. And so my opponent, Jimmy Patronis, decided that he's writing a bill to see if we can fund an improvement. But this is the thing. The infrastructure bill that was passed under President Biden, there's still money available under the infrastructure bill so that we could improve our roads. The state controls where those funds go. But there's another way. Because of the base and because of the infrastructure around the base, the military and the DoD can also pay for those improvements. The thing is that there are ways to fix 98. There are ways to make sure that we're improving our traffic problems, but it goes with traffic and not having the things, grocery stores and things that are readily available to our military people around these bases in these particular places where the traffic is so bad. We have to fix that, but there's money available through the DoD, through grants, and through the infrastructure bill. We just have to have a representative that cares enough to take your concerns to Washington and solve the problems. That is 100% doable and at the top of my list. Okay. After next month, this is from Chuck on Facebook. After next month, how are you going to swing votes your way in even historically red votes? Well, y'all, this is last time around in the special election, I earned 26% of the Republican vote in Escambia County. And I did that through talking to people and through one-on-one conversations. I think that it is important for people, especially at this time in our history, to look past partisan politics and take a look at the Democrat over here. I'm a normal person who lives here, and I've been through some crazy, traumatic stuff in my life, but I'm still standing. I am a female that has worked in a male-dominated field for the majority of my life. And I've always had to work harder, faster, stayed longer so that I could prove myself. And I am in the middle of this job interview, but if you don't give me the shot, if you don't give me a chance, then we'll never know what I could do. But if you give me that chance, I will do some great things for this district. I don't have a problem talking to Republicans. I think I've said this before, and some of you may have heard me say that. My father was a Republican and my mother was a Democrat. I've spent my entire life speaking to both sides. But my policies are policies that work for this district, that work for the people of this district, because we're Republicans and Democrats and independents, all that stuff here. But we're Northwest Floridians, and we know what we need. I believe it's the job of your congressperson, congresswoman, to go to Washington, get the funds that you have put into our government, bring that money back here to solve our problems. Not send money to Orlando or Tampa or Miami, the places that always get the funds. We have needs here in Northwest Florida, and I intend on bringing them back here. Let's see. Is there anything you can do in Washington to codify women's reproductive rights? Yes. Once Democrats control the House and the Senate, and we elect a Democratic or a Republican that supports women's rights, then we can codify Roe versus Wade. Women deserve to make their own decisions about their body, and I believe we have a majority of people sitting in the House now that would do that. But after November, we have to make a serious plan to make this happen. And yes, we can codify a woman's right to choose. All right, Will Collins on Instagram. What's your opinion on ICE in Florida, and how would we stop it? Well, we stop it by defunding them. Um, so also in the big, beautiful bill that is not beautiful, that was absolutely horrible, um, they took $49 billion, sorry, $1 billion, I'm not sure, and gave it to ICE. ICE has more of a budget than all of our um than what am I trying to think of? The CIA, the NSA, the FBI, all of those together, and now ICE has so much money that they can put internment camps all over the country and hire people. That's why we've had so many people hired by ICE that are untrained. They have an unlimited amount of money, and that's how we eliminated healthcare. That's what happened to our healthcare. They took those funds and they gave it to ICE. We have to reappropriate those funds, and my plan would be to fire everybody that has taken a job with ICE since Donald Trump has been elected. Um, ICE is serving more of a role in torturing our country and not following the law. Um, we have to do better as Americans, and I believe that we should have a comprehensive immigration program. But rounding up brown and black people and throwing them in vans and then putting them in internment camps, and shooting Americans point blank for raising their voice, their First Amendment right to speak up and speak loudly, is abhorrent. And so we have to do better. And I believe we will as soon as possible. Let's see. Janice. Um, have you been talking to the rural areas in District 1? Absolutely, yes. I have been digging into our neighbors north of I-10 because I want to know more about our farming community. We have a farmers town hall scheduled on August the 7th from 5 to 7 at New Harmony Community Center in Defuniak Springs. This is partly because we know that our farmers are struggling right now, but I want to hear firsthand everything that's going on. We know that farmers are struggling because of tariffs. We know that farmers are struggling because their goods are not being traded appropriately. We know that our farmers are struggling because of gas prices, because of fuel prices, because of fertilizer prices, and those prices get passed on to the consumer. We have to get a firm handle on this. The first thing we have to do is end this senseless, illegal war. And absolutely, I am talking to all of our farmers in our rural areas and the different communities throughout Northwest Florida. We have so many. From Chris Malcolm on YouTube. How should the government increase availability of housing for the younger generation? So we have to make sure that we're building more houses. I think I've talked about the 21st Century Road to Housing Act that has passed. It did not. It passed the House and it passed the Senate, and it sat on Donald Trump's desk for 10 days. He refused to sign it, but after 10 days, it went into law, and now we are able to build more houses. And when we have more houses and more inventory, the cost of housing goes down. We also need to give a tax break, a tax credit on first-time home buyers so that our youth, so that people coming out of college can realize their dreams and own their own home. You know, right now the average age people owning their own home is 42. Um, That's not how our parents, what happened with our parents. My parents owned a home when they were 20. I think I owned my first home when I was 30. We cannot let this American dream get too far out of reach. And slowly but surely, we are going to build up our infrastructure and build more houses, build more dwellings, build more single family homes, and not allow corporations to buy them up in large swaths and overcharge you. We, I will make sure that we put into law tax breaks for first time home buyers. Okay. Do you support flock cameras? Absolutely not. Flock cameras have been used here in Escambia County. Flock cameras were purchased with the opioid settlement money, which is a poor use of that money. And flock cameras are all over the place. For people that don't understand what flock cameras are, they are cameras that are supposed to capture your license plate, if you are speeding or running through a red light or those sort of things. But this information that the flock cameras capture can go straight into your car. It also can keeps that information for 30 days, and that information is out there. Anybody can get that information. So it is invasion of privacy. It is, and it's more or less a secret that our government keeps to look over your shoulder. So make sure that you know where your flock cameras are and talk to your county commissioners who put them into place. And if you do not have flock cameras in your county, which I believe there are none in Okaloosa, and Santa Rosa, I think. I might be wrong about Fort Walton, but I'll have to check. But flock cameras are an invasion of privacy, and everybody should be concerned. Let's see. Oh, I'm a little over, y'all. Um, I want everybody to know that the best way for us to get the word out about our campaign is through you. It is through you going to your phone, picking out 10 people, talking to those 10 people about why you want to vote for me or what I talked about tonight. So that, because people want to hear why about you and how you feel about your candidates. I can't tell you how many people come to me and go, who should I vote for? They want my advice, and your friends want your advice. I hope to earn your vote because I truly, truly want to represent my neighbors and bring good things back to Northwest Florida to make our lives better and truly represent everybody. So on Thursday nights, we have an in-person phone bank that you can come into our office. We are calling people in district, asking them for their vote. And if you get really comfortable doing it in the office, we can give you a list number. You can go home and call your neighbors. On Saturday mornings, we are knocking on doors all over, all across the district, and we need your help. If you're capable of knocking on a door and talking to people about why they should vote for me, please join our volunteer program. You can go to our website at gay4congress.com, sign up to be a volunteer, or you can email us at info@gayforcongress.com. Let's see. And of course, I always need money. I don't personally need money, but the campaign needs money. It is the hardest part of running for office is raising money, but my average donation is $23 from people because I don't take corporate PAC money. I don't take big dollars. I take money from people just like you who are willing to give me 5, 10, 20 bucks at a time to buy signs, to buy t-shirts, to pay rent for our office, and to make sure that we have direct voter contact because that's how we're going to win this election, everybody. Thank you so much for tonight. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to what I have to say. And next week, if you have any questions, please be sure and put them in the announcement that we are that we put on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, so that I can answer your questions, because I think it's really important. I think this is how you legislate, is by listening to people.